So, Mr. Kennedy, will you also agree that you won't take any compensation from any lawsuits against drug companies while you are secretary and for 4 years afterwards?
Well, I'll certainly commit to that while I'm secretary, but I do want to clarify something because you're making me sound like a shill. I put together that case. I did the Science Day presentation to the judge on that case to get it into court without a hearing.
Mr. Kennedy, it's just a really simple question. You've taken in $2.5 million. I want to know if you will commit right now that not only will you not go to work for drug companies, you won't go to work suing the drug companies and taking your rake out of that while you're a secretary and for 4 years after.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just got grilled in the Senate, and the questions cut straight to the heart of trust, ethics, and public health. Think about it. How can the man tapped to lead America's health system promise fairness and integrity when his own financial ties could leave him personally profiting from lawsuits against vaccine makers? This isn't just a clash of politics. This is about whether someone with millions already earned from anti-vaccine lawsuits can truly put the health of the American people above their own bank account.
Kennedy, I want to start with something that I think you and I agree on, and that is that Big Pharma has too much power in Washington. You've said that President Trump asked you to, quote, clean up corruption and conflicts. Sounds great. You've said that you will, quote, slam shut the revolving door between government agencies and the companies they regulate. That also sounds great. So here's an easy question. Will you commit that when you leave this job, you will not accept compensation from a drug company, a medical device company, a hospital system, or a health insurer for at least 4 years, including as a lobbyist or a board member?
Can you just repeat the last part of the question? Can I commit
You're not going to take money from drug companies in any way, shape, or form.
Who? Me?
Yes, you.
Oh. Yeah, I'm happy to commit to that.
Okay, good. That's what I figured. I said it's an easy question to start with. And I think you're right on this question.
I don't think any of them want to give me money, by the way.
Let's keep going. You're right to say yes. Because every American has the right to know that every decision you make as our number one health officer is to help them and not to make money for yourself in the future. So I want to talk more about money. I'm looking at your paperwork right now. In the past 2 years, you've raked in $2.5 million from a law firm called Wisner Baum. You go online, you do commercials to encourage people to sign up with Wisner Baum to join lawsuits against vaccine makers. And for everyone who signs up, you personally get paid. And if they win their case, you get 10% of what they win. So if you bring in somebody who gets $10 million, you walk away with $1 million. Now, you just said that you want the American people to know you can't be bought. Your decisions won't depend on how much money you could make in the future. You won't go to work for a drug company after you leave HHS. But you and I both know there's another way to make money. So, Mr. Kennedy, will you also agree that you won't take any compensation from any lawsuits against drug companies while you are secretary and for 4 years afterwards?
Well, I'll certainly commit to that while I'm secretary. But I do want to clarify something because you're making me sound like a shill. I put together that case. I did the Science Day presentation to the judge on that case to get it into court without a hearing.
Mr. Kennedy, it's just a really simple question.
Yeah,
You've taken in $2.5 million. I want to know if you will commit right now that not only will you not go to work for drug companies, you won't go to work suing the drug companies and taking your rake out of that while you're a secretary and for 4 years after. It's just...
I'll commit to not taking any fees from drug companies while I'm secretary.
No. I'm asking about fees from suing drug companies. Will you agree not to do that?
You're asking me to not sue drug companies, and I'm not going to agree to that,
Senator. You can sue drug companies as much as you want.
I'm not going to agree to not sue drug companies or anybody.
So let's do a quick count here of how, as Secretary of HHS, if you get confirmed, you could influence every one of those lawsuits. Well, let me start the list. You could publish your anti-vaccine conspiracies, but this time on U.S. government letterhead, something a jury might be impressed by. You could appoint people to the CDC vaccine panel who share your anti-vax views and let them do your dirty work. You could tell the CDC vaccine panel to remove a particular vaccine from the vaccine schedule. You could remove vaccines from special compensation programs, which would open up manufacturers to mass torts. You could make more injuries eligible for compensation even if there is no causal evidence. You could change vaccine court processes to make it easier to bring junk lawsuits. You could turn over FDA data to your friends at the law firm and they could use it however it benefited them. You could change vaccine labeling. You could change vaccine information rules. You could change which claims are compensated in the vaccine injury compensation program. There's a lot of ways that you can influence those future lawsuits and pending lawsuits while you are Secretary of HHS. And I'm asking you to commit right now that you will not take a financial stake in every one of those lawsuits so that what you do as Secretary will also benefit you financially down the line.
I'll comply with all the ethical guidelines.
That's not the question. You have said
You're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue vaccine pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
Look, no one should be fooled here. As Secretary of HHS, Robert Kennedy will have the power to undercut vaccines and vaccine manufacturing across our country. And for all of his talk about follow the science and his promise that he won't interfere with those of us who want to vaccinate his kids, the bottom line is the same. Kennedy can kill off access to vaccines and make millions of dollars while he does it. Kids might die, but Robert Kennedy can keep cashing in.
Senator, I support vaccines. I support the childhood schedule. I will do that. The only thing I want is good science, and that's it.
How about then say you won't make money off what you do as Secretary of HHS?
Before we go to Senator Tillis.
Imagine the nation's top health job going to someone who can personally profit from the decisions he makes. That's why this exchange with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. matters. He was asked for a simple commitment. Don't take money from drug companies for 4 years after leaving office, and don't take money from lawsuits against those same companies while you're in office or for 4 years after. He said yes to the first part, but refused the second. And that refusal tells you almost everything you need to know about the conflict of interest risk sitting right on the table. Let's make this plain. The Secretary of Health and Human Services doesn't just give speeches. He oversees the agencies that set vaccine schedules, regulate drugs and devices, control what data is released, run compensation programs for vaccine injuries, and defend the government in vaccine court. Those are levers that move markets, sway juries, and shape litigation. If you keep a financial pipeline to lawsuits against manufacturers through contingency fees, referral fees, or post-government partnerships, you have a personal stake in how those levers get pulled. That's the definition of a conflict of interest. Here's how the money flows in these cases so viewers understand the incentive. In mass torts and injury cases, lawyers often work on contingency. They earn a percentage of any award. Bring in a client, you get a cut. Win a big verdict, you get a bigger cut. Kennedy disclosed about $2.5 million from a firm that sues vaccine makers and other manufacturers. That doesn't make him guilty of anything, but it creates a clear financial incentive structure. And when you sit atop HHS, even small shifts like changing labeling, updating the vaccine injury table, or pushing out data in ways that can be misread can tilt the courtroom playing field. That's why the senator pressed for a bright line pledge. No money from those lawsuits now and no money later. It's also important to separate rhetoric from rules. Federal ethics laws already cover some of this. There's a criminal conflict statute that bars officials from working on matters that affect their own financial interests. There are standards of conduct that require recusals when there's even an appearance of bias. There are post-employment restrictions that ban switching sides on specific cases. But here's what ethics rules can't do. They can't fix every gray area. They can't stop a former official from joining a wave of similar lawsuits that weren't the exact files he touched. They can't cover the perception problem when the public sees a leader make policy choices that later align with his private earnings. That's why nominees often go beyond the bare minimum, divesting interests, signing written recusals, even pledging not to take certain work for a cooling-off period. Kennedy wouldn't make that broader pledge. Let's also be precise about the machinery, because that's where power hides. Vaccination policy isn't a single signature. The CDC's advisory committee votes on the childhood schedule, the FDA sets approval and labeling through formal evidence and public comment, and vaccine injury compensation is administered through a specialized court funded by an excise tax, intentionally kept outside regular civil litigation. The HHS secretary can't just snap his fingers and ban a vaccine or open the lawsuit floodgates, but he can influence appointments, priorities, timelines, and the posture agencies take in court and rulemaking. He can propose changes to the injury table that expand payouts without strong causal evidence. He can decide how aggressively to defend cases or settle them. He can shape how and when data is released so it's digestible or inflammatory. Those choices don't need to be illegal to be consequential. They just need to compound public doubt. This is where trust comes in. Parents aren't reading federal registers at midnight. They want to know their kids are safe. Nurses and doctors want clear guidance, unclouded by hidden incentives. Communities need a health chief who can walk into a crisis, measles outbreak, drug contamination, a new vaccine rollout, and be believed. That credibility is earned when leaders take unnecessary profit motives off the table. When Kennedy declines to do that, he's asking the country to accept "trust me" in a role where trust must be demonstrated, documented, and audited. Fairness also matters. If a nominee has pending rights to fees from ongoing cases, those are financial interests today, not just hypotheticals tomorrow. The standard remedy is simple. Disclose the dockets, sever the ties, sign written recusals that are public, and, crucially, make a proactive pledge not to take lawsuit-related compensation for a meaningful period after leaving office. That last step isn't about punishing a career. It's about protecting the public from the appearance that government power is being used to set up a payday. There's a bigger civics lesson here, too. We talk a lot about the revolving door between agencies and industry, but there's also a reverse revolving door with advocacy and plaintiff side work. Both can create conflicts. The fix is the same: aggressive transparency, binding ethics agreements, independent oversight, and leaders willing to give up some private opportunities to earn public trust. When someone says, "I'll comply with ethics guidance," but won't make a clear, enforceable, time-bound pledge that covers the gray areas, they're telling you where their line is. If you've ever had to decide whether to vaccinate your kid, or you care for an elderly parent, or you work in a school and worry about outbreaks, you deserve a health secretary whose only incentive is public health. No secret royalty deals, no contingency fees waiting on the other side, no referral pipelines humming in the background. Just evidence, fairness, and the humility to take conflicts off the table before they become crises. Tell me what you think. Should an HHS nominee pledge not to take lawsuit money tied to companies they regulate during their service and for a set period after? Or are the existing ethics rules enough? If you want leaders who treat public trust like a binding contract, say so. Drop your take in the comments, share this with someone who cares about clean government, and subscribe so we can keep unpacking the fine print that decides how our institutions really work.